Hello. All right. So in this video, I'm going to discuss when you have a trinomial. So if you guys remember what a trinomial is, we have three terms. We have one, two, three terms, and recently we've been dealing with cases. So for example, when a was equal to one, so in other words, we had something like 1x squared plus 5x plus 6, right? So basically, this 1 is not here, and let's say we wanted to factor x squared plus 5x plus 6. So just to refresh your memory to do this, right? So what we do is we define two numbers that multiply to 6 and add up to 5. So if you make your list of numbers, right? So make your list of numbers. Some of you still suck at this, but it's okay. These are my list of numbers that I see here. 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So when we write our factors, this is going to be, again, we have x's in front, and this becomes x plus 2 times x plus 3. Okay, so that is basically how you would factor this. So now we're going to get into examples, as you can see. So now the easier examples are when a was equal to 1. Now we're going to deal with cases when a is not equal to 1. Okay, so I'm going to clear the screen here, and let's go through some of these examples. All right, okay. So what we have here, let's see. The first example I have is, so actually what I should just write out what we're doing. So factor the following expressions. Okay. So we're going to factor the following expressions. First one I have is 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Okay, so what I see is in this case, you see a is not equal to 1. If you see here, this means a is going to be equal to 3. A is equal to 3. All right, so if possible, usually when you want to factor something, you want to start by looking if there's a common factor that is shared between all the terms. So if we look at each of these terms here, look to see if there is a common factor that can be pulled out. It just so happens that for this example, it looks like each term has a common factor of 3. So we can pull out a 3. So this is 3 times x squared, and then do negative 6 divided by 3, that's negative 2. Negative 9 divided by 3, that's going to be minus 3. Okay, so once we have pulled out a 3, now we want to consider just this expression. Okay, so if we just consider this expression here, what we're doing is we're doing the exact same thing as we did earlier. We're finding two numbers. So in this case, we're finding two numbers that multiply to negative 3 and add up to negative 2. Okay, so what I see in this example is, I believe this would work, right? So basically, if we want to factor this purple expression, this would be 3 times x plus 1 times x minus 3. Okay, so that is how that one would factor all the way down. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and FOIL or box this. Just do the reverse of what you did, and you should get what you have here. Yeah. So that is how you would factor something like that. Okay, so I'm going to clear the screen. Clearing the screen again. So what I have here, let's say I take something not too much harder, but let's say I have a negative x squared minus 13x minus 36. Now, you might look at this like, well, I'm not sure what to do because, well, negative in front. So usually if you have a negative in front here, what that's going to imply is you need to kind of work backwards. So you're going to pull out this negative sign. So let's go ahead and pull out that negative sign compared to the rest of the expression. So when we pull out this negative sign, we get x squared plus 13x plus 36. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're only considering this expression. We're only considering factoring this expression. So just do what we did. This is why I was trying to drill this so much earlier. You're trying to find two numbers that multiply to 36, two numbers that multiply to 36, and add up to 13. Okay, so I'm going to make my list of numbers right here, and I could probably go longer, but it's okay. What I see here is that 4 and 9 should work, right? Because 4 times 9 is 36. 4 plus 9 is going to be 13. So if we go ahead and write this, what we have is this is x plus 4 times x plus 9. Okay, so this is basically, if we start off with this expression, this down here would be its factored form. Okay, I'm going to show you another example. Okay, so let's say we want to factor, let's say we have 2x squared minus 30x plus 112. Okay, so what we're going to do with this, look for anything, a common factor that they might have. It just so happens for this example, you can pull out a common 2. So if I pull out a 2, what I have in the parentheses here is going to be x squared. Take negative 30 divided by 2. That's going to be negative 15. Then you have 112 divided by 2, and that's going to be a positive 56. Okay, so again, only consider what's in the parentheses. Only consider what's in the parentheses now. So you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to 56 and add up to negative 15. So I can keep going down this list. Let's see, 8 and 7, negative 8, negative 7. So each of these numbers will multiply to 56, but we're trying to figure out which ones add up to negative 15. Okay, so I see that these would work here, which means that this expression would factor to 2 times, and we have x minus 8 times x minus 7. Sorry, I got a little lazy with the parentheses there, but that is how this one would factor. So 2 times x minus 8 times x minus 7. Okay, going to clear the screen. Show you another example. So let's say we have something like 4x squared plus 8x minus 192. All right, so again, what I mentioned earlier, if you see something that a common factor that can be pulled out, pull it out. So in this case, we have a 4 in front here. We're going to pull out that 4. So this is 4 times x squared. 8x divided by 4 is going to be 2x. Negative 192 divided by 4 is going to be a negative 48. Okay, so next what we need to do is, again, only consider the expression in the parentheses. So if we only consider the expression in the parentheses, we're trying to find two numbers that multiply to negative 48 and add up to positive 2. Add up to positive 2. Okay, so what I see is this will work. So when we write out the factored form of this, this is going to be 4 times x plus 8 times x minus 6. Okay, so I only have 6 minutes left. I'm going to continue where we left off. Okay, Hello. All right. So I'm just gonna we left off in the last problem. So what we have here is if I was given this expression, basically the expression you see down here is its factored form. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and show you a different example. So I'm gonna clear the screen. So let's say we have something like this. So let's say I ask you to factor negative 4x squared plus 16. So negative 4x squared plus 16. So again, like I showed you in the other problems, what you want to do is look, if you look at the coefficient in front, if you can pull out a common factor. In this case, we can. So what we have here is we can pull out a negative 4. And what we have in the parentheses here is when we pull out the negative 4, we have x squared right here, and then you do 16 divided by negative 4, and then you're going to get negative 4 right here. All right? So what we need to do next is a couple things. So if you remember how to factor this is basically the difference of squares formula. So we can do x squared minus y squared. So that is the same thing as x plus y times x minus y. And as you see here, this will break down as x plus 2 times x minus 2. And the reason why, if you forgot how to do that, so take the coefficient that you see last, the square root of 4 is 2. So what we're dealing with is x squared minus 2 squared. So when we break that down, it looks something like this. And as you see, this would be our final result. So this expression would factor down to that. Okay? All right. So let me explain a different type of case. So a different type of case that we have is, well, what if you can't pull out a common factor? So as you see, there's a video that I showed in class. It was that girl that was going over the X method. And this is basically the summary, if you're wondering, of what she went over. Okay? So if you can't pull out a common factor, what you're gonna have to do is you can use X method. In this case, you're gonna have to identify all your little variables. So what we have here, if you're wondering, so this is A, this is B, and this is C. So in other words, A is 3, B is negative 16, and C is positive 20. Okay, so let's just run through this. So because we cannot pull out a common factor, we can resort to the X method. So in order to use the X method, we need to find two numbers that multiply to A and C. A and C are right here, 3 times 20. So that goes in the top part, that's your positive 60. Next, you put the add up to the B term. See, it's color coded, so this goes on the bottom. So you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to 60 and add up to negative 16. Now, I could totally make a list of numbers if I wanted to, but basically, if you just run through it, it should be negative 10 and negative 6, because negative 10 times negative 6 will get you positive 60, and we have negative 10 plus negative 6 will get you negative 16. Okay? Next, what you want to do in the X method is that you're going to take the A term, so the term in front here, and basically what you're going to do is you have to divide it by 3. Okay, so the tricky part about this is you need to reduce any fractions for it to work. Okay, so in other words, here's a fraction, and when you reduce the fractions, you have to put it over, if you can reduce it to something over 1, make sure you put over 1, because this is the coefficient that goes in front of x. Okay, so when you reduce this, basically the 3 goes in front of the x, and the negative 10 comes right here, and then the 1 would go in front of the x, and we have a minus 2 that goes there. So if we were to go ahead and prove that this is equivalent to this, you could always do your box or FOIL, right? If I just showed you FOIL, this is 3x squared. if I do outer terms, this is negative 6x, inner terms, and then the last terms would be positive 20. Combine like terms, 3x squared minus 16x plus 20. And that confirms that we got this right here. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to show you 4 examples that go with this idea. Okay. So again, we're still dealing with trinomials where a is not equal to 1. Okay, so let's take this step by step. All right, so 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor this. So try to look at this first number. If you look at this first number here, basically there isn't a common factor that we can pull out. So unfortunately, there is no common factor that we can pull out. Okay, so what this means is we're going to have to resort to using the x method. So if we use the x method here, well, first what we need to do is we need to identify our terms, right? So this is basically, if you remember, quadratic expression has the form ax squared plus bx plus c. What I see here is a is equal to 2, b is equal to negative 9, and c is going to equal negative 18. If you go back, if you decide to rewind and kind of see those notes that I showed you earlier, what you want to do is take your a and your c term, multiply them together. So what we have is 2 times negative 18. 2 times negative 18 will get you a negative 36. What you're going to do next is you're going to put your b term on the bottom. Okay, so the b term goes on the bottom. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to find 2 numbers that multiply to negative 36 and add up to negative 9. So I'm going to spare you the trouble of trying to look for numbers. But basically, if you go ahead and make your list of numbers, I believe this should be negative 12 and positive 3. Because negative 12 times 3 will get you 36. And we know negative 12 plus 3 will get you negative 9. Okay. Next, what I see, again, when you're doing the x method, basically you're going to take the a term. So this is your a term, and you need to divide it through. So divide by 2. Next, what we need to do is we need to look for any fractions here that can be reduced. So just so happens, this I see here, this would negative 12 divided by 2 is going to be negative 6 divided by 1. Okay, so now when we write our factors for using the x method, this means we have a coefficient, we have 1 in front of our x, and then we have minus 6 that comes right along. This 2 will come right in front of the x, and then this 3 will come after, plus 3. So what this means is if we were to just get rid of the 1 here, this is basically x minus 6 times 2x plus 3. And that is how we would go about doing a problem that's like that. And again, what I would suggest doing is, if you don't feel confident with your answer, go ahead and FOIL it. Go ahead and use box. Check to see that you are getting the same thing that you get up there. Okay? So I'm going to show you a few more examples. Actually, I'm just going to cut off this video right now, and then I will go over those 3 last examples. Okay? All right. Hello. Okay, so continuing where we left off, I'm going to clear the screen. Okay, so I'm going to clear the screen here. I'm going to show you 3 more examples, and basically we are good. Okay, so let's say we have 4x squared plus 11x minus 3. Okay, so what we're doing, again, we need to identify what a, b, and c are. So what I see here is a is going to be 4, b is going to equal 11, and c is going to equal negative 3, right? Ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so what we're doing as we create our x method, we're taking 4 times negative 3. We're taking a times c. A times c, so 4 times negative 3 is going to be negative 12. We take our b term, which is on the bottom, so it's going to be a positive 11. We're finding two numbers that multiply to negative 12 and add up to positive 11. Do this correctly, and I believe this should be 12 and negative 1, because 12 times negative 1 is negative 12. And then we have 12 plus negative 1, and that's going to be positive 11. Next, when we're doing our x method, we take our a term. So our a term is right here. That is 4. We're going to divide each of those numbers by 4. Now, what I mentioned earlier was that if you see any fractions, you want to go ahead and reduce those fractions. So 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3 divided by 1. Again, what I said earlier was make sure you keep that 1 there because that's the coefficient that goes in front of x. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually write this out. So this 1 will come right here, x, and then plus 3. This 4 will come in front of x, so this is going to be 4 x, and then minus 1. Okay, so in other words, our factored expression for 4x squared plus 11x minus 3 is going to be x plus 3 times 4x minus 1. So x plus 3 times 4x minus 1. Okay, so again, now I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to show you two more examples. Okay, let's say I have 6x squared plus 13x minus 5. Okay, so just like I mentioned earlier, if you cannot pull out a common factor, then you're going to have to resort to the x method. Okay, so let's try to use that x method. So what we have here is, again, this is the form ax squared plus bx plus c. A is 6, b is 13, and c is going to be negative 5. Again, as we're trying to identify these constants, it's only the numbers that are in front. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our x method. A times c goes on top. 6 times negative 5 is going to be negative 30. This number goes on the bottom. You're trying to find two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add up to positive 13. Do this correctly. I think it's positive 15, negative 2. 15 times negative 2 is going to be negative 30. And 15 plus negative 2 will get you positive 13. Now, we take our a term. So we're going to take our a term here, and we divide by 6. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to reduce any fractions that you see. So we're going to reduce. Okay, so what I see is this is the same thing as 5 divided by 2, right? So basically 15 divided by 3 is 5, 6 divided by 3 is 2. It looks like this one can be reduced too. So this is going to be negative 1 divided by 3. Okay. So let's go ahead and write our factors for this. So when we write our factors, again, this number is the coefficient that goes in front of x. So what we have is this is 2, and then we have x, and then that number comes on top, so it's going to be plus 5. Okay. And then what we have, again, so this 3 will go in front of x. This is the coefficient that goes in front of x. And then we have a minus 1. Okay, I should put that in purple parentheses. Okay, and that right there is our factored expression. And what I want you to do is go ahead and use FOIL, and use box to see if this factored expression is the same thing as what we get there. Okay, now I'm going to show you one more example, and hopefully you guys have started to see a pattern with what I've been going over. Okay, so 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 Okay, now as we look at the 4 here, we cannot pull out any common factors. So because we cannot pull out any common factors, we're going to resort to the x method. So ax squared plus bx plus c. You're going to go ahead and identify each of those coefficients. So a is 4, b is 5, c is negative 6. Let's go ahead and create our x. So as we create our x, do a times c. 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Number that goes on the bottom is our b term. So that's going to be 5. You're trying to find two numbers that multiply negative 24 and add up to 5. So with a little bit of trial and error, 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 8 plus negative 3 is going to be 5. Next, take your a term. Take your a term here, divide it through. So we have 8 divided by 4 and negative 3 divided by 4. This one is already in its simplified form. It cannot be reduced any further. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Make sure you put 2 over 1. Okay, now as we go ahead and do this, so as we write our factors, right? So this 1 will come right here. That's a coefficient that's in front of x. 1x, and then we have a plus 2. Next, what we have here, we take our 4. I'll put that in the color. How about I just do it in color so you can see that? That 4 would go in front of x. Okay, and then the minus 3 will come after. So our final result is going to be x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. X plus 2 times 4x minus 3. Okay, and again, what I mentioned is go ahead and check to see if this expression is the same as that by using FOIL or box. And that is it. Alright, so let me know if you have any questions on this. Okay, bye.